Hey everyone, Laura Ronson here. And before I say a single word about what just happened, I need you to picture something for me. Picture the mayor of your city, sitting behind his desk, scrolling through his phone, and suddenly seeing a headline from another city's mayor. A headline that says, "In plain language, we are coming for your companies. We are coming for your banks. We are coming for your tax base. And there is nothing you can do to stop us." Now picture that your mayor does not call an emergency press conference, does not announce a bold new plan to keep businesses in your city, does not even pick up the phone to call the CEOs being targeted. He just sits there, silent, because he has no answer. Because the policies he ran on, the policies he was elected to implement, are the exact reason those CEOs are already packing their bags. That is not a hypothetical scenario. That is exactly what is happening in New York City right now. And the mayor watching it happen in real time, completely helpless to stop it, is Zohran Mamdani. I am Laura Ronson, and on this channel we cover the economic collapse of America's progressive-run cities in real time. Hard facts, corporate filings, migration data, the numbers that the mainstream media is too afraid to put on your screen. Smash that subscribe button right now and hit the bell icon, because what is unfolding between New York City and Dallas right now is the most important economic story in America. And by the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why Dallas is winning, why New York is losing, and why the mayor of one of America's fastest-growing cities just fired a shot directly at Mamdani's front door. So let us get into it. Let me set the scene for you, because the full weight of what just happened only lands when you understand the context. The Dallas mayor did not accidentally let something slip in a random interview. This was not an offhand comment at a local Chamber of Commerce breakfast. This was a deliberate, calculated, public declaration of economic war against New York City. The Dallas mayor looked directly at the camera and said, essentially, that under Mamdani's socialist leadership, New York is going to experience an avalanche of Wall Street firms fleeing to Texas. An avalanche. Not a trickle, not a trend. An avalanche. That word matters. Because when a sitting mayor of a competing city uses that specific language, they are not speculating. They are telling you something. They are telling you that their phones are already ringing, that their economic development teams are already in active conversations, that the relocation paperwork is already being drawn up behind closed boardroom doors in Manhattan right now. And here's the part that should make every single New Yorker sit up and feel genuinely alarmed. The Dallas mayor is not wrong. Not even a little bit. Drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think Mamdani even understands what is coming? Because from where I am sitting, the answer is terrifying. Now, here is what the mainstream media will not tell you. This avalanche did not start with Mamdani. It started long before he ever set foot in City Hall. But Mamdani's election did something that nobody in the business community can ignore. It removed the last reason for hesitation. For years, corporate executives in Manhattan have been running the numbers, comparing their tax burden in New York to what they would pay in Texas or Florida, watching their competitors quietly slip out of the city and thrive, sitting in boardrooms asking each other, are we being irrational by staying? And for years, some of them held on, maybe because of inertia, maybe because of the network, maybe because they genuinely believed New York City would course correct before things got truly catastrophic. And then November happened, and Mamdani won. And every single one of those hesitating executives got their answer. New York is not course correcting. New York is accelerating in the wrong direction. That realization, that final confirmation of what they already suspected, is what turned a steady exodus into the avalanche the Dallas mayor is now describing publicly and loudly for the entire business world to hear. Let me introduce you to someone. His name is Marcus. That is not his real name. But his story is completely real, and it is playing out right now in offices across Midtown Manhattan. Marcus is 44 years old. He has spent 18 years climbing the ladder at a major financial services firm headquartered in the heart of New York City. He is not a billionaire. He is a senior managing director who earns a very good living, has a brownstone in Brooklyn that he has spent 15 years paying down, has 2 kids in private school. and has built his entire professional identity around being a New York finance guy. Marcus has watched colleagues leave for Texas and Florida for years. He attended their going-away parties, smiled politely, and told himself that New York still has something those places cannot replicate: the energy, the network, the deal flow. He believed all of that, past tense. Because 2 months ago, Marcus's firm called a leadership meeting. Executives from Dallas were on the video screen, and the conversation was not about whether the firm should open a Dallas office. The conversation was about whether New York should become the satellite. Marcus drove home that night and told his wife they needed to have a very serious conversation. That conversation is happening in households all across New York City right now, and every single time it ends the same way. The math does not lie. Now let us talk about why the math is so brutally one-sided, because this is the part of the story that politicians in New York have spent years refusing to engage with honestly. New York City and state combined impose a personal income tax burden on high earners that hits nearly 15%, 14.8% to be precise, when you stack the city tax on top of the state tax. That is the highest combined income tax rate of any major city in the entire United States. Now hold that number in your head, 14.8%, and compare it to what Marcus would pay if his firm relocated to Dallas. Texas state income tax, 0. Dallas city income tax, 0. 0 plus 0 equals 0. The difference for a senior executive earning $800,000 annually is not a rounding error. It is not something you manage with a good accountant. It is $118,000 per year in additional taxes. $118,000 every single year. For the rest of your career, that is not a tax burden. That is a financial punishment for the crime of choosing to work in the city that Zohran Mamdani runs. And here's the thing about financial punishments. Eventually, people stop accepting them. Dallas knows this. That is exactly why their mayor is publicly describing an avalanche. But here is what really keeps New York budget analysts awake at 3 in the morning. When Marcus leaves, it is not just Marcus who leaves. It is the entire economic universe that Marcus inhabited. Think about this carefully. Marcus stops paying city income tax. That is $118,000 per year gone from New York's budget. Permanently. Marcus sells his Brooklyn brownstone and takes that equity to Texas. The restaurant where Marcus has lunch 3 times a week loses a regular. The dry cleaner, the car service, the building staff, the vendors, all of it disappears from New York and reappears in Dallas. Economists call it the multiplier effect. And for a city as dependent on financial services as New York, that multiplier is absolutely catastrophic. New York City's top 1% of earners contribute approximately 40% of total city income tax revenue. 40%, paid by 1%. When that 1% starts moving to Texas, the math does not bend. The budget does not flex. The city simply runs out of money, and no progressive speech from City Hall changes that arithmetic by a single dollar. Now let us talk about what Dallas is actually doing, because this side of the story is the one that should embarrass every single person in City Hall. Dallas is not winning by accident. Dallas is winning because it made a deliberate, aggressive, strategic decision to hunt New York firms. Their economic development teams are running targeted campaigns aimed directly at Manhattan's financial district, cold calling executives, sending relocation packages to CFOs, inviting CEOs for tours of Class A office space that costs 40% less per square foot than comparable Manhattan locations, and they are using New York's own policies as their best sales pitch. Every time Mamdani floats a new tax proposal, every time a headline comes out of New York that makes a CEO wince, Dallas clips that headline and sends it to their prospect list with 2 words attached: call us. Since 2018 through 2024, Dallas recorded the highest number of corporate headquarters relocations of any city in the entire country, 100 new headquarters in 6 years, while New York was losing them. New York had 125 Fortune 500 companies in 2005. Today, that number has collapsed to 50. Dallas gained 100 headquarters in the time it took New York to lose more than half of its corporate base. That is not a trend. That is a verdict. Here is where it gets even more infuriating. Mamdani's response to all of this has been exactly what you would expect from someone who campaigned on viewing corporations as the enemy. Silence on the specifics, vague reassurances that New York is resilient, rhetoric about how the city does not need billionaires to thrive. But here is the economic reality that no amount of political rhetoric can change. New York City's annual budget is over $100 billion. That budget depends on a tax base overwhelmingly concentrated among a small number of high earners and major corporations. Without those earners and corporations, the city cannot fund its police department, cannot fund its fire department, cannot maintain its subway system, cannot pay its teachers, cannot keep its hospitals running. The progressive vision of a New York that does not need corporate America is not just naive, it is mathematically impossible. And the Dallas mayor understands this better than Mamdani ever will. Every week, Mamdani stands at his podium and tells New Yorkers that everything is fine. It is not fine. Nothing about this is fine. Let me give you the domino list, because the Dallas mayor is not operating in a vacuum. He is one voice in a coordinated chorus of competing cities that smell blood in the water. J.P. Morgan, the bank most synonymous with Wall Street itself, now employs more people in Texas than in Manhattan. 32,000 in Texas, 24,000 in New York. The most iconic Wall Street bank in history has already abandoned Wall Street as its primary employment center. Goldman Sachs has been quietly expanding its Dallas presence for years. Citadel, the most powerful hedge fund on the planet, left New York for Miami and never looked back. BlackRock is expanding its Texas footprint. And those are just the names that make headlines. Behind them are hundreds of smaller firms, boutique banks, private equity shops, family offices, hedge funds that have already relocated or are in the process right now. No press release, no announcement. Just a quiet forwarding of address on the corporate letterhead. The financial services sector in New York lost 8,400 jobs in just the first 6 months after Mamdani's election. 8,400 in 6 months. During that same period the year before, the sector had added 6,400 jobs. That is a swing of 15,000 jobs in the wrong direction in 12 months. And the Dallas mayor says the avalanche is just beginning. So let us talk about what this really means for the people who cannot afford to leave. This story is not just about billionaires and CEOs. This story is about Marcus's dry cleaner, the security guard at his firm's Midtown office who has worked there 11 years and is not getting a relocation package to Dallas, the food cart operator outside the building who serves 300 lunches a day and is watching that crowd get thinner every single month, the maintenance crew, the administrative assistants, the parking garage attendants, the coffee shop owners near the office towers. These are the people who cannot pick up and move to Texas. When the executives leave, they take their signing bonuses and equity packages and talent to Dallas. When the support workers get laid off, they have nowhere to go. That is the hidden cost that Mamdani never talks about when he describes corporations as the enemy. The cruelest irony is that the people most hurt by the corporate exodus are not the wealthy. The wealthy can leave. The people most hurt are exactly the working-class New Yorkers that progressive governance claims to champion. Here is where we are. New York City stands at the edge of something that once it tips, cannot be untipped. The Dallas mayor is not issuing a warning. He is announcing a result. The avalanche is not coming. It is already in motion. Every month that Mamdani refuses to acknowledge the crisis is another month of relocation paperwork being filed, another month of boardroom decisions being made, another month of economic activity making the permanent migration from the most expensive major city in America to the most business-friendly. The feedback loop is engaged and accelerating. Fewer corporations mean less tax revenue. Less tax revenue means worse services. Worse services mean more people and businesses leave. More departures mean less revenue. The doom loop has a name now, and it is spelled Mamdani. History is watching. Detroit was once the wealthiest city in America. It thought it was too big, too important, too iconic to fail. New York is making the same calculation right now. And somewhere in Dallas, a mayor is smiling. Thanks for watching, everyone. I am Laura Ronson. Drop a comment below right now and tell me, which Wall Street firm do you think leaves New York next? Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to see the truth, and subscribe to this channel because this story is nowhere near over. I will see you in the next one. Stay informed, stay awake, and never stop asking questions.